You really should stick to serving drinks. Planning was never your strong suit, Mark whispered as he brushed past me, champagne flute in hand, his new wife Vanessa trailing behind him with that practiced smile of hers. I stood frozen by the gift table, arranging the ornate envelopes into neat rows while guests mingled around me at my daughter Lily's wedding reception. The country club ballroom sparkled with crystal chandeliers and white orchid centerpieces that I'd never be able to afford on my bookkeeper's salary. Not that I was asked about any of the planning. According to Mark, my simple tastes would only embarrass Lily. 20 years ago, I wore white lace and believed every promise Mark made. Now I wore a navy dress I'd splurged on at Nordstrom, and my ex-husband acted like I was the hired help at our only child's wedding. The wedding planner, a rail-thin woman with a Bluetooth earpiece who'd barely acknowledged my existence during the planning process, materialized beside me. "Mrs. Mitchell, we need someone to direct the vendors to the service entrance. Since you're already here." Not Barbara. Not Miss Mitchell. Mrs. Mitchell, as if I still belonged to Mark. "I'm the mother of the bride," I said quietly. She blinked, clipboard clutched to her chest. "Yes, I'm aware, but Mr. Mitchell suggested you might want to make yourself useful." Of course he did. In the 20 years since our divorce, Mark had perfected the art of making me feel insignificant while maintaining plausible deniability. If I objected, I'd be labeled difficult. Emotional, exactly as he described me to everyone who would listen. "I'd be happy to help after I've had a moment with my daughter," I replied, forcing a polite smile. The planner consulted her clipboard with a frown. "Mrs. Mitchell, the current Mrs. Mitchell, is with the bride now. Perhaps later?" Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a text from Lily. "Where are you? Need you for something before photos." At least someone remembered I existed. I found them in a small antechamber off the main hall, Lily radiant in her gown, Vanessa fussing with the veil, and Mark's mother Judith surveying the scene like a queen overseeing her subjects. My former mother-in-law's spine stiffened when I entered. "Mom," Lily's face brightened. "Can you help with this?" She held out a delicate gold bracelet, my grandmother's, which I'd given her on her 16th birthday. "Oh, I can do that," Vanessa interjected, reaching for the bracelet. "Actually," Lily said with uncharacteristic firmness, "I'd like my mom to do it." A small victory, but I savored it as I fastened the clasp around my daughter's wrist. "Lily, darling, the photographer is ready," Mark announced, appearing in the doorway. His gaze slid past me as if I were part of the furniture. "Your mother looks beautiful." He meant Vanessa, of course. She preened, smoothing her silver designer dress. "Both my mothers look beautiful," Lily corrected him gently. Mark's smile tightened. "Of course. Barbara, you clean up nicely." His tone suggested mild surprise, as if he'd expected me to show up in sweatpants. "Mom, we're doing family photos first," Lily explained as I followed them outside. "Wonderful," Vanessa chimed in. "The Mitchells, then the Carsons, then everyone together." "And then Mom," Lily added. Vanessa's smile remained fixed. "That's what I meant by everyone, sweetie." The photographer arranged us like chess pieces. Mark and Vanessa central and beaming, me exiled to the edge beside Vanessa's parents, whom I'd met exactly twice. When I tried to stand beside Lily, Vanessa's manicured hand shot out. "Beverly, we need you over there for balance. The colors work better that way." "My name is Barbara." I swallowed the correction and moved where she pointed. Lily caught my eye with an apologetic glance, but she said nothing. At 26, she still desperately wanted her father's approval, something I understood all too well. "Perfect," the photographer declared after capturing the posed family shot. "Now, just the Mitchells." I stepped forward along with Lily, but the photographer waved me back. "Sorry, just Mr. and Mrs. Mitchell and the bride." I stood aside, hands clasped in front of me, watching my ex-husband and his trophy wife position themselves on either side of my daughter. The diamond on Vanessa's finger caught the light as she placed her hand possessively on Lily's shoulder. The same hand that had never packed a school lunch, never soothed a fever, never clapped at a middle school band concert. "Smile, everyone," the photographer called. "Now one with just the mother of the bride," Lily requested when they'd finished. Mark checked his watch. "We're running behind, Princess. Let's move on to the Carson family." "It'll just take a second, Dad." "How about during the reception?" Vanessa suggested. "The lighting will be more flattering." for whom, I wondered. I retreated to the background as Jake's family took their places. His parents, 3 sisters, grandparents, all welcomed into the inner circle while I orbited the periphery. Mark worked the crowd with practiced charm, introducing Jake's father to business associates and making sure Vanessa had FaceTime with the society wives in attendance. Barbara. A gentle voice beside me belonged to Patricia, Jake's mother. We'd met a few times during the engagement and had gotten along well. Would you like to join our family photos? After all, we're all family now. The simple kindness nearly undid me. That's very thoughtful, but I don't want to impose. Nonsense. She linked her arm through mine. Jake considers you family, which makes you family to us. For the first time that day, I felt like I belonged. The ceremony itself was beautiful. I watched from my front row seat. Mark hadn't been able to argue with tradition there, though he'd ensured Vanessa sat beside him on the aisle while I was tucked against the wall. Lily and Jake exchanged vows beneath an arbor of white roses, their voices clear and confident. When the minister asked who gives this woman, Mark stood alone, though we had agreed to do it together. Her mother and I do, he said, omitting Vanessa in a rare moment of accuracy. At the reception dinner, I discovered my seat at a back table with distant cousins and colleagues I'd never met, while Mark and Vanessa presided at the head table with our daughter. When I approached the wedding planner about the mistake, Vanessa materialized. "It's not a mistake, Beverly," she said, examining her French manicure. "We needed the immediate family up front, and there simply wasn't room. I am immediate family. I'm the mother of the bride." "You know what I mean." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Real family. People who matter. I returned to my assigned seat, cheeks burning. From across the room, I caught Mark watching our exchange with amusement. He raised his glass in mock salute before turning back to charm the banker seated beside him. Throughout dinner, I endured the curious glances from table mates who clearly wondered why the bride's mother sat among strangers. I picked at my salmon while trying to maintain a dignified expression. When it came time for speeches, Mark stood with practiced confidence. "When my little girl was born," he began, his voice thick with manufactured emotion, "I promised her the world. And today, seeing her marry into the wonderful Carson family, I know I've delivered on that promise." Applause rippled through the room. No mention of me, the woman who'd raised Lily through middle school and high school after Mark decided family life was too constraining for a man of his ambitions. No acknowledgement of the college tuition payments I'd scraped together from my modest salary while he found himself for 3 years, conveniently forgetting child support. Vanessa stood next, though there was no traditional role for the stepmother in wedding speeches. "I may not have been there from the beginning," she said, touching her chest delicately, "but I've cherished every moment of being Lily's bonus mom. You've become like a daughter to me." A convenient sentiment from a woman who'd shipped Lily off to boarding school within 6 months of marrying Mark. A woman who'd complained about having a teenager underfoot during holiday breaks and suggested Lily attend summer programs rather than waste time at home. Jake's father spoke next, warm and genuine as he welcomed Lily to their family. Jake himself gave a beautiful tribute to his new wife. Throughout it all, I watched Lily's face, the way she lit up when Jake spoke, her polite smile during Vanessa's performance, the complicated love in her eyes when her father made promises he'd probably break. When the dancing began, I made my way to congratulate Jake, only to overhear Vanessa speaking to her sister. "Can you believe what she's wearing? So pedestrian. And did you hear her talk to the caterer? Classic, uneducated, small-town manners. I told Mark we should have limited her role." "At least she's staying out of the way," her sister replied. "Though she's hovering like staff, maybe give her a tray to carry." They laughed, crystal earrings catching the light as they tilted their perfectly highlighted heads together. I retreated to the bathroom, locked myself in a stall, and pressed cool hands against my burning face. I wouldn't cry. Not here. I'd endured years of Mark's gradual erosion of my confidence, followed by the sudden abandonment when a younger, wealthier opportunity arose in Vanessa. I'd rebuilt my life piece by piece, focusing on giving Lily stability while Mark played the fun weekend dad with expensive gifts and vacations. I would survive this night, too. While touching up my makeup, I overheard 2 young women at the sinks. That's so messed up, one said. Lily's actual mom is sitting with like random people while the stepmom is front and center? Classic Mark Mitchell move, the other replied. Remember how he treated Professor Gaines when she wouldn't change his daughter's grade? Total power trip. I hadn't realized Mark's reputation extended beyond our social circle. It was oddly validating to know others saw through him too. When I emerged, I found Mark waiting by the bar, watching me with that familiar smirk. He'd aged well. Damn him, his salt and pepper hair lending him an air of distinction. Enjoying yourself, Barb? You always did prefer to observe rather than participate. I'm here for Lily, I said simply. Yes, well, she's grateful you made the effort. Though between us, she was worried you might make a scene. You know how emotional you can get. His revisionist history never ceased to astound me. I was the steady one, the rock who held our family together while he pursued every impulse. By the end, I was so accustomed to his gaslighting that I questioned my own memories. I only want her to be happy, I replied, watching Lily twirl in her new husband's arms across the dance floor. Then be a good sport and keep to the background. This is an important night for my connections with the Carson family. I don't need any awkwardness. I thought of all the awkward moments I'd smoothed over during our marriage, the times I'd made excuses for his absences at parent-teacher conferences, the dinner parties I'd hosted for his colleagues when he showed up late and tipsy, the holidays I'd salvaged after he forgot gifts or arrived with presents clearly purchased by his secretary. Awkwardness has never been my specialty, Mark. That's all you. His eyes narrowed at my small rebellion, but before he could respond, Lily's best friend and maid of honor, Amy, clinked a knife against her glass. The room quieted. Time for the mother-daughter dance. Panic flashed across Mark's face. This wasn't in his carefully orchestrated schedule. I moved toward the center of the room where Lily waited, smiling nervously. We don't need to do this, she whispered when I reached her. Yes, we do, I said, taking her hands as the opening notes of Wind Beneath My Wings filled the room. A predictable choice, but it had always been our song. As we swayed, I remembered teaching Lily to dance in our small living room, her tiny feet balanced on mine. I remembered the recitals I'd recorded while Mark was stuck at the office, the high school prom photos I'd taken alone because he had a critical meeting in Chicago. Mom, Lily said softly, I'm sorry about the seating. Dad insisted. It's okay, I interrupted, not wanting to burden her with my hurt feelings on her wedding day. You look beautiful. He said you wouldn't mind, she continued, that you'd understand the head table was for family who contributed to the wedding. Mark's manipulative hand at work again. He'd likely told Lily he'd consulted me, that I'd agreed to the arrangement. Another lie to add to the collection. Today is about you, not me, I assured her. Nothing matters except your happiness. When the song ended, polite applause followed. Before I could retreat to my assigned corner, the DJ spoke. And now we have a special toast from the mother of the bride. I froze. I hadn't prepared anything because the wedding planner, undoubtedly directed by Vanessa, had made it clear I wouldn't be speaking. But Amy was grinning at me and holding out a microphone. Amy added you to the program, Lily explained quickly. She thought it wasn't right that you weren't included. Across the room, Mark was speaking urgently to the wedding planner, who looked flustered. Vanessa had gone pale beneath her spray tan. I took the microphone with trembling hands. Every eye in the ballroom turned toward me. 20 years of swallowed words rose in my throat. Thank you all for coming to celebrate Lily and Jake's special day, I began, my voice steadier than I expected. For those who don't know me, I'm Barbara Mitchell, Lily's mother. From the corner of my eye, I saw Mark making a slashing motion across his throat, signaling the DJ to cut my microphone. But the young man was watching me, ignoring my ex-husband's frantic gestures. When Lily was 8, she came home from school crying because a girl had told her that her science project was stupid. I sat her down and told her something my grandmother told me. Your worth isn't determined by those who don't see it. It's held in the hearts of those who truly know you. I looked directly at my daughter, blocking out everyone else. Lily, you have always known your worth, even when others tried to define it for you. Your compassion, your intelligence, your quiet determination, these are the qualities that make you extraordinary, and these are the qualities that drew Jake to you. I turned to my new son-in-law. Jake, I haven't had the chance to tell you this privately, so I'll say it now. Thank you for seeing my daughter, truly seeing her. In a world that often values appearance over substance, you recognize the remarkable woman she is. Mark was now making his way toward the DJ booth, but several guests had shifted in their seats, blocking his path. I caught an encouraging nod from Amy. Some of you may wonder why I'm seated at table 19 instead of with my daughter on her wedding day. Others may have heard whispers about my lack of sophistication or education. A ripple of uncomfortable murmurs spread through the crowd. Lily's eyes widened, but there was something else there too. A glimmer of the respect I'd sacrificed too much to protect. The truth is simpler. 19 years ago, when Lily was 7, her father decided our family wasn't enough for him anymore. While I was working 2 jobs to keep us afloat, Mark was emptying our savings account to impress a young paralegal at his firm, who, incidentally, wasn't Vanessa. Gasps punctuated the silence. Vanessa's perfectly arranged expression cracked slightly. When Mark finally left, he told me he needed to find himself. What he actually found was a way to avoid child support for 3 years, while I put myself through night classes to become a certified accountant. What he found was a series of women who could elevate his status more than a high school sweetheart from Prescott, Arizona ever could. I could see anger building in Mark's face, but also fear. He'd never expected me to speak up, and certainly not with such specific details. Despite all that, I never spoke ill of him to Lily. I wanted her to have a relationship with her father, even when he missed her school events for business trips that coincidentally aligned with couples' getaways, I later saw on social media. Mark had frozen in place, likely calculating the damage control needed. Several of his colleagues were eyeing him with newfound suspicion. I kept quiet when he claimed credit for her college tuition, though my second mortgage paid for it. I said nothing when he told everyone he'd supported her gap year in Europe, which was actually funded by my mother's life insurance policy. I took a breath, softening my voice. I didn't speak up because I thought protecting Lily's relationship with her father was more important than defending my dignity. I believed that staying quiet was a form of strength. Looking around the room, I caught the eyes of women who nodded in silent understanding. But today, watching my beautiful daughter start her own family, I realized that true strength includes standing in your truth. And my truth is that I am not the footnote in Lily's life that Mark and Vanessa would have you believe. I am the woman who shaped her values, who showed her that adversity builds character, and who taught her that genuine love doesn't diminish you, it helps you grow. Silence hung heavy in the air. Lily's eyes shimmered with tears, but she was smiling slightly, nodding. Jake, welcome to our family. Lily, I am so proud of the woman you've become. I hope your marriage is filled with mutual respect, honest communication, and the kind of love that sees you through life's hardest moments. I raised my champagne glass. To Lily and Jake. To Lily and Jake, the crowd echoed, many guests rising to their feet. I handed the microphone back to the stunned DJ and made my way across the dance floor. As I passed Mark, I paused. Congratulations. Your daughter got married today, I said quietly. Try to make it about her, not you, for what's left of the evening. For the first time in decades, he had nothing to say. The rest of the reception passed in a blur. Guests I'd never met approached to introduce themselves properly. Lily's college roommates hugged me, telling me stories I'd never heard about how my daughter had helped them through difficult times. Vanessa remained conspicuously absent, reportedly suffering from a sudden migraine. Jake's father found me by the dessert table, 2 plates of cake in hand. He offered one to me with a wink. That was quite a speech, he said. Been wanting to meet you properly since Jake first brought Lily home. Now, I understand where she gets her backbone. She gets it from herself, I replied. I'm just glad she found someone who appreciates it. Oh, my son does. He thinks the world of you too, by the way, says you're the reason Lily turned out so level-headed despite. He caught himself. Well, despite certain influences. Patricia joined us, sliding her arm through her husband's. We're having a casual brunch tomorrow at our place before the kids leave for their honeymoon. Nothing fancy, just family. We'd love for you to join us. I wouldn't want to intrude, I began. Nonsense, she insisted. You're family now. Family. The word settled warmly in my chest. As the night wound down, Lily found me by the terrace doors, watching guests twirl under the string lights. "Mom," she began, her voice catching, "I didn't know about college, about Europe." Dad always said, "It doesn't matter now," I interrupted gently. "It does." She looked at me with new eyes. "All these years I thought I believed." "That's what he wanted you to believe." She took my hands. "I'm sorry I let them push you aside today. I should have stood up for you. Today is your day, not mine. But without you, I wouldn't be who I am." She hugged me fiercely. "Thank you for everything." As she pulled away, she added, "Jake's parents invited you to brunch tomorrow?" I nodded. "Good. We'll be there too before we leave for Bali. Dad and Vanessa are flying out early for some charity thing in Chicago." She rolled her eyes slightly. "So it'll just be us and the Carsons, the way it should be." Later, as I collected my purse to leave, I found Mark waiting by the coat check, his usual confidence deflated. "That was quite a performance," he said, his voice low. "I hope you're satisfied. Carson's father cornered me afterward. Asked if what you said about the child support was true." "What did you tell him?" "That you've always had a flair for drama." His jaw tightened. "You had no right to air our dirty laundry." "Our dirty laundry?" "No, Mark. I finally shared my truth after decades of enduring your lies. There's a difference. You've damaged my relationship with my daughter. If your relationship with Lily is damaged, it's because it was built on falsehoods," I replied calmly. "But she loves you, and she'll forgive you if you start being honest with her." He scoffed. "Always the martyr. This righteous act might impress strangers, but I know you, Barb. You're not as perfect as you'd have everyone believe." "I never claimed to be perfect. That was always your concern, not mine." As I turned to leave, he called after me, "Good luck maintaining this newfound backbone. We both know you'll be apologizing by tomorrow." I smiled, not bothering to turn around. 20 years ago, you might have been right, but not anymore. Outside, the May night was warm and star-filled. I slipped off my uncomfortable heels and walked barefoot across the parking lot to my car, feeling lighter than I had in years. Tomorrow, I would have brunch with my daughter and her husband and his kind, welcoming family. Next week, I would return to my quiet life in Sedona, to my small bookkeeping business, and my evening pottery classes, and my Sunday hikes. But I would return changed. Not because I had publicly humiliated my ex-husband, though I couldn't deny a certain satisfaction in that, but because I had finally reclaimed my voice. In doing so, I had given Lily permission to value her own. As I drove away from the glittering country club, I caught a glimpse of myself in the rearview mirror. The woman looking back at me wasn't just Lily's mother or Mark's ex-wife. She was Barbara Mitchell, whole and complete on her own terms. And that was victory enough.